Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and we are here for another episode of the Friday Night Movie Club. It's episode 95. We're coming down on 100 in retiration of this show. I already have what I think the new show would look like and how that whole thing's going to be run, but I'll tell you guys after the show because there's no point of doing it here 5 weeks before the show ends. But here we're here once again tonight, joining us with my lovely people. Good Mr. Rick Aragon here with us. How you doing tonight, Ricky?
I'm doing well, recovering from my bee sting.
Oh wow, that sounds devastating.
Yes, on my middle finger.
Oh boo-hoo, boo-hoo. And also joining us today, Mr. Bobby Motto. How you doing today, Bob?
Fine. Yeah, I used to have a real, well, I probably still do, but I have a real problem with in my life. So, I hate the name. Listen, Bob is fine for other people. I can't stand it for myself. I'm not a 40-year-old construction worker in New Jersey, so it doesn't really apply to me, unfortunately. But it's a great name for like a general guy around the office. Hey, Bob will do this. Bob will do that.
You could be a potential construction worker from Jersey. Why not?
I'm very lazy. I have no I work ethic. It's just anything physical, I'm just like useless at because I'm tremendously out of shape all the time.
Well, I guess it's easier for me because being Mexican, I'm used to a lot of manual labor.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, here's the thing. Some of you guys are like, wait a second. Didn't you say you were going to review Wicked and Gladiator? Yeah, I did. And then I called Audible this week because I don't know about you. Here's what happened, okay? I listened to Film Threat with our good buddies Chris Gore and Alan Ian. Basically, what was it, like yesterday or the day before, where they were talking about the movie. And I have to say this. Over the course of the last week, I have been mentally struggling to get out there and drag myself to a movie theater to go watch this godforsaken movie, even to the point where I didn't even want to see Rick out there just as a rib so that he can go watch it for himself. Because this is a 2.5 hour, no, not even 2.5 hour, 2 hour and 40-minute movie, which means that if you're including the trailers, you're going to be in there for well over 3 hours for the entire experience of this film. Plus, on top of that, it's only a part 1 of a part 2 that come out later on as well. That's another little caveat that they conveniently left out in the marketing as well. But here's the thing, and I want to start a little bit of debate on this, and we can kind of go into my decision to ultimately not watch it. I was really on the fence about it, and even when I thought, okay, I'll just go in there and suffer for a couple hours, maybe I'll just go to a movie theater with alcohol, I can pull a Cassie and just drink the entire time that I was there. But I'm listening to Chris and Alan talk about this film, and there's a couple of things that were big red flags for me. One, obviously, and I'm pretty sure Rick probably knows this a little bit more than Rob, is that this is a movie that is not based on actually the Wizard of Oz story, but is based off of a play that is an offshoot of the Wizard of Oz story. Is that correct?
No, actually it's a musical. I mean, the movie's based on the musical, which was based on
Well,
a novel.
but the musical was a play that was on Broadway,
stop,
correct?
stop, Jacob. You have to listen. It's
Well, speed it up then.
all right. Movie based on Broadway musical, based on novel, based on the Wizard of Oz original story. So it's like four sections away here.
So it's based off of fan fiction that's based off of fan fiction that's based off of fan fiction that was based off the source material, right? Is that what you're saying?
In a way, yes. I don't want to call it fan fiction, but it's probably, yeah, it's closer to fan fiction.
That it really has nothing to do with the original Wizard of Oz.
It just uses the characters.
Yeah, it was a fan fiction novel that came out that basically was its creator's own vision of it. So it just sort of co-opted all the characters, the world, all that stuff. I mean, it's a great argument against fan fiction, which I've always hated. And, you know, I know that there are some people that are on the bar room there that like it. But, yeah, it's mostly bad and should be discouraged at every cost.
Well, I don't really see anything wrong with fan fiction if it's just for yourself. If it's published and made into something larger, you end up with 50 Shades of Grey, which was a Twilight fan fiction that just got a little too out of hand, I guess.
Yeah.
So let me put it this way, the best way I can place it, probably the nicest way I can place it in the show. This movie is based on a bunch of bullshit, is what it is. I mean, if you really get down to it, that's really just what it comes down to, simplified. And so apparently Chris Gore was talking, and he is a big fan of the original play or Broadway show, whatever you want to call it, who cares, that this was based off of. And apparently this film is very faithful to that. And when I say that, I mean essentially the play that it's actually based off, not actually the Wizard of Oz itself. And there was an argument that was being made here because basically he's saying that, well, I mean, people are asking, is it woke? Does it have a lot of like LGBTQ stuff? Does it have like that type of stuff in it? It's like, yes, it does. But at the same time, this is his argument. This is Chris talking here. He doesn't consider it woke because essentially the source material that this was brought off of was started, I believe, 1999. So this is going back 25 years based on how long this has been around. And based on any other metric, if you were doing like a checkbox of everything that you would possibly label to be modern 2024 woke, like subverting like the story of trying to elevate a villain to be actually a good guy, and all the LGBTQ subversion and all the race swapping, all that just really annoying nonsense that is being shoved down our throats constantly these days. You say that the argument he was making is that, well, it's not woke because it's based off of something that came out 25 years ago. Here's my problem with that. It's that just because something didn't essentially come out in the last 10 years does not make it woke. I'm going to clarify this by saying this. Woke things did not just start like in the last 10 years. Like it didn't just start in like when Donald Trump was running for president of the United States, became president of the United States. That's when you guys start to notice it. That's when it start becoming not as subversive, but it was like in your face. And when it start becoming in your face, it got to a point where you can no longer be subverted by it because it was so. Let's put it this way: the people who started making these things are so emotionally inept that they couldn't help to do it, the way that they were doing it back in the 90s, back in the 80s, and the 70s, and the 60s, and whatnot, where it was a lot more subversive, a lot more subtle. Now it's not so subtle. When you come to this movie, a lot of things that bothers me about this film is like, it's 2.5 hours, nearly 3 hours long. It's chock full of a whole bunch of garbage that I don't like from any other movie. It's a musical, by the way, so unless you like musicals and show tunes, probably not your bag here. And there's so many other things working against this movie, and I'm just thinking to myself, this is just me speaking. I'm not going to speak for you two. I'll let you guys go here in a second. I literally refused at one point to watch this movie. I'll say this: if it was like an hour and 40 minutes long, I could have sucked it up and stopped, not been a pussy, and just be like, okay, it's an hour and 40 minutes. I'll suck up this stuff and put it in my top 10 worst movies of the year. 3 hours, I can't fucking do it. 3 hours for something that I know is going to be garbage, and it had basically confirmed to me it absolutely was garbage. I just absolutely could not do this. I know you guys are probably going to get stuck watching this film anyway before the end of the year comes up. So, Rob, I'm going to start this one off of you. What do you think about just everything that you've heard about was it Wicked? Have you seen it yet? 'Cause I know you said you were going to see it with family, like they were dragging you for it, and which sucks for you. I mean, just so, a little sidebar there, but I don't know for this movie, it just seems like this is the most subversive piece of crap that I probably see all year, and that's saying a lot because I saw the TV glow.
Yeah, my mom is a really big fan of The Wizard of Oz. She's a really big fan of the musical Wicked. She's read the book, so I have no relationship to the property whatsoever. But um, I love movies, and she's been such a big part of my life in introducing movies to me. So it's just something that I'm fine, going to see it with her, and obviously having my own opinion about it. But I don't have a whole lot of faith that it's going to be very good, like any musical that's made in 2024, especially made off of a 30-year-old property. So, what I would say is that the term woke or whatever, I kind of hate the term now just because it's so overused. But basically, it's a form of postmodernism, and it's just and not all postmodernism is wokeism or whatever, but a lot of it is like you can be whatever you want to be, and the rules of the world don't matter, and no one can really tell you what's defined and how you can, and so much of that is sold now, this sort of pervasive acceptance of everything. It's, hey, just accept everything because there's no consequences, and live your truth. And a lot of these platitudes that have nothing to do with logic or reason or common sense. And so
Yeah.
I would hope that it's just a fun, fantastical movie about sort of a retconned portrayal of this character. My understanding is that the villain of Wizard of Oz isn't really the villain. She's actually just a misunderstood character, and it's the Wizard of Oz. It's the wizard who's corrupt and whatever. I haven't seen it. Obviously, this is just from what I've gotten from the previews and what I've read about it myself. But again, it's a lot of this stuff is kind of injected with this postmodern thought, and that's, I think, where a lot of it comes from. But again, I'll have to see it. I might not get to it till this weekend or maybe next week, but I'm also not in a huge rush to see it either. So,
Rick, I know that you were. Are you still planning on seeing this one later, or did you already see this one? I think you were one of the ones.
I saw it on Wednesday. It was
Okay,
like an early
so I
showing.
think you saw this one before I sent it out, saying that no, hey, we're not watching this movie. So, yeah.
Yes.
First of all, that was not intentional. I was gonna try to save you the embarrassment, but you had already did it before I make the note. But so I want to get your thoughts kind of on the movie as you someone who's have seen this one, and you can kind of give your general thoughts of what you felt about this film. The runtime, the story. First of all, here's another thing. Just quick sidebar. These two characters, right? The Cynthia character and the Ariana Grande. These two leading up to this film, the marketing and kind of the discussion surrounding it had nothing to do with the actual film itself. Obviously, Cynthia had a big public meltdown a few months ago when somebody edited a poster to fit more as the poster for the Broadway play, and I guess she didn't realize that, so she just thought that they were erasing her because she's a black woman, and went on that whole diatribe that blew up in her face. And then Ariana Grande, the discord surrounding her over the last several weeks is that people think she's legitimately dying. Like every time you see her in a public appearance, she's like 70 pounds, frail and pale, and people are asking like, does she have cancer? Is she wasting away? Like, what is wrong with Ariana Grande? And this is the discord leading up to the film. And I'm just like, if this is the discord leading up to the film, why should anyone actually see the movie? But you've seen the movie, so tell me, are we being a little too critical, or based on what you've seen, like what is your take on the Wicked film?
All right. Well, first, I probably would have seen it anyway because, as you know, I was doing a Wizard of Oz retrospective, so this would have fit in. I think that the people who liked the original Broadway show will probably like this movie based on the audience that I saw it with, who, yes, God help me, they were wearing the Wicked t-shirts and other paraphernalia.
Yeah.
And At least they weren't singing along. Though I understand that there will be sing-alongs. I'll say this much real quick: the production and the costuming, yes, it's very well done. I congratulate them. They did capture that kind of Aussian world. Uh, I don't really remember many of the songs. Um, I'm not a. I've never seen the show. I don't care to ever see the show. But I think the fans of the original show or of the musical will actually like this movie. And from what I understand, it ends at what would be it ends at Act One. So you're basically seeing all of Act One here.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I can say that for the woke, if you want to call it that, I guess there's some of it because the prince has everyone, and I do mean everyone, aflutter as soon as he appears an hour into this movie. I understand that in the original show, the Wicked Witch's sister is disabled. She is in a wheelchair, and it's not pandering because the lyrics of the song mention that she's in a chair. So I presume that that is how it is on the original Broadway show. It does make me wonder how the Wicked Witch of the East could terrify the Munchkins, because if you're basing this off the 1939 movie, that's how she got killed. Um, I don't think it's particularly great. It's serviceable because for me, Ariana Grande, who does look a little thin, she's playing Elle Woods. Basically, it's like Elle Woods in Oz. Kind of a flighty. Here she's always in pink, kind of flighty.
Legally Blonde, Elwoods. Is that who you're?
Legally, but yes, legally
Yeah.
blonde Elle Woods. Yes, she's playing the Ozian Elle Woods. Um, Alfalfa. I could never remember her name. The Wicked Witch's character's name.
Oh,
So I always called.
Alphaba. Is that it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I always called her Alfalfa because I could never remember it.
Yeah.
So Alfalfa, she's an animal rights activist in all of this for some reason,
Mm.
because yeah, that's part of the plot. So hopefully I don't give any spoilers. Michelle
Oh, because
Yeoh,
the monkeys, right? That are in the
no,
because
no,
you
no,
see that in
no,
the
no.
trailer.
It has nothing to do with the monkeys.
Oh,
No,
okay. Okay.
well, I mean, Alfalfa is partially responsible for the flying monkeys. I'll put it
Mhm.
that way. But no, she's like a animal. For people like me who've never seen the show, when they go to Shiz University,
I'm
it's
sorry,
hard.
what?
Shiz,
It sounds
S
like
H
jizz.
Shiz. That's the way it's spelled.
Okay.
Shiz, Shiz University.
Uh-huh.
They'll think Hogwarts because that's what I thought. Hogwarts.
Somebody said this was Harry Potter for I forget what it was, like Harry Potter for gay kids or something.
Yes, pretty much. Yes,
Okay.
this is
It's like a
Harry Potter for gay kids. I think that the audience that I went to see it was predominantly gay.
Yeah, well.
And I mean, this is the first time I've been
I
to
mean,
the first time I've been to a movie. This is the first time I've been to a movie or a musical or anything like that where people were wearing t-shirts and jackets that had Wicked on them, which
Have
I
you
found very
seen any of
bizarre.
the press junket interviews from this? From
No.
like the gay
No.
media? They're so fucking embarrassing. Where it's just,
well, we played some gay media earlier this week. Yeah, it is pretty embarrassing.
oh man.
And well, not as embarrassing as Michelle Yeoh trying to sing. She doesn't really sing.
Oh.
She kind of talks to the melody.
Hmm.
Give credit where credit is due. Cynthia Erivo does sing. I understand that Defying Gravity, which is the closing song, is I mean, it's well done, well delivered. And Ariana Grande is fine. I don't think that she's as good as Kristen Chenoweth, who originated the role on Broadway. And you want spoilers for people who care? Here's the spoilers: the original Alfalfa and original Glinda make cameos in this movie. I don't know if that's a big thing for people, but apparently it is because the audience was oh, okay, like, oh, yes, I know who they are. And it's fine. This movie is fine. If you liked the musical, you will like this. You can tolerate it. I would give it a positive just for the production and the costuming. I will say I wasn't overwhelmed with it, and I will say this: it was better than Son of Gladiator.
Yeah,
For what it's worth,
I'm gonna press X to down on that very, very hard. And real quick, here's the thing: I will get around to watching this movie before the year is up. I still got 6 weeks, so I'm not really worried about it right now. But yeah, the one thing that I heard from multiple people is that this is a film that is likely going to play up best, or you can say the target audience, quote unquote,
Yeah.
is essentially women and gay men. Which that entertainment has been great over the last several years when things have been aimed at those two groups specifically of all the films and television shows that we've watched over
I
the
think
last several
so.
years. So I
Well,
can only imagine.
the curious thing is that the screening that I went to, there were also a good number of kids, and I mean small kids. They
Hmm.
probably were lured in by the Wizard of Oz connection, and maybe they thought it was like just a
Well, yeah,
straightforward
because I know
prequel.
there's a bunch of people out there that think, "Oh, this looks like a Disney movie. I'm gonna go take my kids," and that's
Well,
essentially the draw here.
they might have thought that it was like a prequel, not like Return to Oz, which was freakish, but it's like a prequel to the Wizard of Oz, and so they figured it was for kids. I don't know if it's strictly for kids. There's nothing like really horrifying in it that I can remember, uh, but yeah, I can tell you that most of the audience that I went to was probably gay, and my best friend's partner is really enthused to see this on Broadway. So this is predominantly a I guess a film that would appeal to the target audience, as you said. For me, it was fine. I mean, it wasn't the worst thing I've seen. I've seen better things. I've seen worse things, and it gets a mild recommendation if you like the actual production. Like I said, the production and the costuming, all so well done. But I also thought it was overproduced, over choreographed, and it's a strange criticism maybe for a musical that it looked too choreographed, and you don't need to have constant music playing throughout the film, even in a
Well, look who the
musical.
director is.
John Chu,
Yep.
Washington Heights. The
Washington,
director. You know what I
Washington,
mean?
yes, in the Heights, yes,
Washington.
Same thing.
Washington.
It's the same fucking director. Isn't that? And listen, I think largely his job was done. You know the story. It's executing the, I guess, the cinematic musical aspects of it. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to it because I haven't seen it, but it sounds like it's going to be a relative success, especially at the box office. Listen, I'm just going to say this right now. I don't think there's a world where Ariana Grande gets nominated for an Oscar, even in a bad year.
Oh, no, no, no! Did you not see the awards contender? He predicts she'll win. Like he's like, what was the front runner? I don't see it. Basically, like I told you, she's playing Elle Woods. She's playing the
Well, I
Aussian
mean,
version of
hey,
Elle Woods.
if Ariana Grande really is dying, then hey, they may want to get her that Oscar before she croaks in the next few months because she's
No,
not looking
because
too great.
I wasn't
I don't think
particularly
she can act.
impressed.
You know,
No, no, I wasn't particularly impressed by her performance, and I'm puzzled why anyone thinks that she deserves a nomination. Look, I would nominate this in the technical categories. I would even give it wins in technical categories, but not for picture, not for director, not for any acting. And I don't know if they wrote an original song for this movie because, again, I don't know any of the songs except Popular because I kept hearing it, and Defying Gravity because I was forced to watch an episode of Glee where
Mhm.
I had to hear it sung constantly, especially by the gay kid who wants to sing it because he wants to sing a song that a woman sings. I don't know why, but I hated the whole show and I hated having to be made to watch it. Other than that, I don't know any of these songs. So in the technical categories, fine, but for picture, actors, I mean actress, supporting actress, why? You people are seriously deranged.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I I'll probably save this one for when we do our show later on in the year, maybe episode 100, when we actually talk about best and worst movies of the year. I'll give my
Oh,
full thoughts
just
on it
be
when I've actually
thankful.
seen this.
Yeah, just be thankful that none of you are gonna go watch a sing along version. That was my fear.
Yeah, that's also another tough thing. It's like, the lead. There's nothing as a draw, especially for someone like me who's not gay, who's not a woman. Like, there's no draw to this film for me or anyone else like me. So I can safely say no, I am not in the target demographic for this movie. So maybe my opinion in this is a little bit jaded, but I'm still gonna give my opinion on it anyway. So
So just real quick,
yeah,
Elliot
go ahead.
Spaceman actually made a very good joke about Adele Dazeem there. I actually can't remember the actress's actual name. She was in
I think
Rent.
it's Idina
Menzel, yeah,
Menzel.
Idina Menzel, yeah. Where John Travolta was trying to say her name at the Oscars, and I'm like, is that demonic possession there, where he just couldn't he said her name backwards or something? It was very weird.
Well, I know
Anyway,
he
reference
tried.
over Elliot.
He referenced it because he did call her the wickedly talented. So obviously he knew the
Right.
musical. Yeah, I couldn't remember her name. So when I was talking about it at work, I kept saying Adele Dazeem because I couldn't remember, and I kept calling the lead character Alfalfa because I could never remember her name either. I will give credit. There is a good line in the movie where Ariana Grande as Galinda. Then she changes it to Glinda. They're arguing, and she looks at Adele Dazeem's character and the witch, and she says, "Oh, the artichoke is really steamed up." And so for some reason, I found that funny.
Again, another stellar joke. Boy, do you suck.
Sorry, I can't deliver the joke because I'm still traumatized by Son of Gladiator.
Yeah, just for further reference for anyone watching this stream, Rick may have a slightly skewed viewpoint than the rest of us. So I'm just going to throw that in there as a little caveat.
What
But
do you
give him
mean
credit, he's the only one.
skewed? What does that mean? I have a skewed version.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
No, I don't. Do tell, Mr. Smith.
No, I'm just saying that your taste in movies just be slightly different than the rest of us. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, I actually like good movies.
That's debatable. Well, let's go ahead and talk about this film, the one that we're actually here to talk about, and that is Gladiator Doe, or I don't know how the douchier French way of saying it there, so we're just going to call it Gladiator
Doe. Folie Doe.
Man, so here's the thing, right? And I'll go in here with the caveat here, is that Gladiator 2 is it a movie that needs to exist? No. I mean, anything that was interesting about the first movie, I think all those characters died in the first film, so this is really no real justification for this movie to begin with. If they had just made a separate movie about a gladiator in a Roman Empire that had no ties to this one whatsoever, I think people would have been far more receptive to it. But at the same time, maybe it would not have gotten the name value that it was attached to with the Gladiator franchise. So I can see that being from a marketing standpoint here. I do find it very, very odd to if I'm gonna put some conspiracy theory hat on right now, is that I do find it very, very odd. There are a lot of films that are coming out right now that are kind of either reviving or romanticizing the Roman Empire. We'll get into this one here in just a second as well. But more importantly, when I look at this as a movie, I think to myself, this actually isn't a bad film. However, it's one of those films where it's like it really doesn't have any justification for existing, if that makes any sense. It's like compared to a lot of the other films that I like there, I kind of like it a lot better than some of the other movies, but I'm just kind of like, I don't really see an end road to, if I'm selling this to somebody else being like, oh yeah, you gotta see this one, it's one of the best movies of the year. It's like, it looks great. Some of the things are kind of nonsensical. We'll talk about that later, especially when we're in like kind of the battlefield where they're literally swimming with the sharks in some other instances as well too. We'll talk about that, but I mean, like I said, to me, this is just kind of a hard sell to tell anyone that they need to go see this film. Kind of the same way we were talking about the other film as well, the Wicked movies. Like, who do you sell this to? But I'll go ahead and start off with Rob here. Two things that I wanted to ask you. One, Ridley Scott, did this need to be a sequel? That seemed to be a big sticking point here. And two, there was a lot of criticism of the casting of Denzel Washington as a feature character in this movie. I would argue that he's probably the best thing about the film. Would you at least agree with that statement?
Yeah, this is a terrible movie. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. This is a terrible fucking movie. This is awful.
Amen. Amen,
I'm
brother.
sorry.
Preach.
I was expecting at least a little bit more, and okay, I don't even know where to start. Denzel Washington is like a gay foppish guy who's like
Yes.
talking about sleeping with men in one scene, and like he's flamboyant, he's over the top. He like I guess he's good because the script is shit. You know what I mean? Like I think that he at least tries.
I will say this too, just real quick. I'll let you go. I think this film, outside of the main character, does a very, very poor job of framing who exactly are the good guys and who exactly are the bad guys in this story. Because when you really think about it, everyone outside of our protagonist is pretty much a bad guy, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And so it's like you have Pedro Pascal, who's the general, and you have Paul Mescal, who I don't think has any star power. He has no charisma. I didn't really give a shit about him, and he's supposed to. And then it's like, oh, he's the son of Spartacus. He's the son of Maximus.
Spartacus.
Might as well be the
um,
there's a shout out to it. There's a shout out to Spartacus if you saw the movie.
And like some of the Colosseum fights are utterly retarded. Like the water fight with the boats, I was just like, you're really doing this. And then they still present it like it's Roman history. Like this is, you know what I mean? I know Gladiator wasn't exactly right in terms of historical accuracy, but it still has to be relatively believable if you're talking about, you know, Marcus Aurelius and that time in Roman history. There was none of that. There were these monkey baboon things with jagged teeth, you know, and we had real tigers in the original. You know what I mean? Like, just if we're talking about something that's a sequel to Gladiator, this is a complete and utter odious embarrassment. If it's just an offshoot, fun, like historical, epic, dumb action movie, okay, maybe you can accept it. But man, I was like running out the clock with an hour to go. I was having a rough time hanging on. Connie Nielsen, which is really the only connection to the first movie, is like she's melodramatically like being over the top and trying to infuse the movie with emotion, and it's just like, dude, I am not feeling it whatsoever. So
hey, she is 60 years old, so there's a
this movie was just completely dead on arrival for me. But and I'm trying to think of positive things. Okay, even the strength and honor got turned into a punchline. The whole what we do in life echoes in eternity. I wanted to walk out of the theater in that moment. I was like, okay, that's it. I'm done. No, I have to stay and watch this because I'm reviewing it. So I just had I don't know. Maybe I was just incredibly pissed off that day. I don't know. I thought it was a really bad movie, especially with what critics had said, that though this is a great movie, it's going to be a best picture contender, all of this stuff. There was nothing about it that was engaging. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking now, but this was a rough time at the movies for me.
All right. Well, let's let Rick explain why he hates the main character of this movie so much. So go ahead, Rick.
Hey, I've got Robert, I've got throw this. I'm going to throw this out to you. See how you like it. There are people who really want Paul Mescal to get a Best Actor nomination out of this. I mean, the movie starts out really bad just with those CGI baboons. I looked at that. I'm going, that is so fake. I mean, you're not even trying. You're not even trying. And I will push back on one thing that Rob said. There's another connection, not just Connie Nielsen. There's Sir Derek Jacobi in here, who I thought had died in the first one. I thought he had been killed in the first one, but he's in this too. And really, in the beginning, in the very first part, when they're invading Nubia or Numidia or whatever, I wrote in my notes, are we getting the same beats to Gladiator? And Mescal is supposed to be the new Maximus. I mean, basically what you're watching is the Hangover Part 2 in Gladiator form, because it's basically a remake. It's like it's hitting the same beats over and over and over. The Gladiator 2, Son of Gladiator, it is a sequel to Gladiator in the same way that Grease 2 is a sequel to Grease. And I actually like Grease 2, for the record. But no, what I like about why I had a problem with Paul Mescal and Lucius Maximus Halo Jr. or whatever, he has nothing. He's a boring character. He has no charisma. He has no ability to lead people. The idea, and I put this also in my notes, the idea that he's going to lead the troops in that battle on the ships is laughable because he's personality free. All he does is just bark, "I hate Rome," and that was it. Nothing else. And he doesn't remember his mother. He doesn't remember being Lucius. He was always Halo or Hollow or Mulhalla or whatever he called himself. This is nonsense. It's the terrible. There's no script here. They basically just took Gladiator and decided they were just to add some bits to it and add some water. It was This is a disaster. This is an absolute disaster. This probably is going to be one of my worst films of the year. And people who are being gentle with it, who will not be named, Jacob, are just being absurd in saying that it's okay. No, I would sooner watch Wicked, and I'm not the target audience for that.
What
But
about the two
Well,
Caesars?
you've also been saying for months that Argyle is the worst movie of the year. Well,
No,
objectively, there's like 10
no.
films that are worse
Well,
than Argyle.
I haven't seen Babes. I might see it now that I got my screeners. But
But the two
and even
Caesars, we're doing a bad Joaquin Phoenix impression the entire time. Yeah.
Oh, do you mean
they-
the
yeah.
little fat kids? Those,
Yeah,
Yeah,
those,
they split that. I actually put the twin emperors aren't antagonists; they're burdens on the film. I mean, what were they? They were nothing. They were pointless. They were just there because I guess historically they were needed to be there. Uh, it's no, it's this whole thing is just terrible from beginning to end. What killed it for me actually? Well, once we were getting to we're supposed to care about Paul Mescal's wife, mistress, lover, whatever. I didn't even know her name. I mean, she just appeared there in the first few minutes, dressed up as his Amazonian warrior queen, gets killed off, and oh, I'm supposed to feel terrible. Oh, the agony. It's like, who are you? Why do I care? It was the only good thing in the movie. Really, was the little recap, the animated recap of the first Gladiator. But what killed it for me was when we got to the baboons and he bites the baboon, and everyone seems to think it's very funny because they do those howler monkey noises when he's in there. But I looked at those baboons and I said, this looks so fake. This just looks so awful. How could you do this? How could you have seen these CGI baboons and said, yeah, this is what I'm going to present, and yeah, we're going to pass this on. That was bad. Everything about this movie was bad. There's nothing. There's no performances, and I mean, it was nice to see Derek Jacobi was there for the money because there's
The
no
lack
reason
of
for him to-
spectacle. See, this is what kills me is the lack of spectacle. That's the one thing that you should have. The Colosseum, the atmosphere, the location, the anticipation of the battles themselves. Something Gladiator, the original, did so well. And I have the 4K Blu-ray. It looks amazing and sounds amazing. And it was an investment by Ridley Scott to really bring that to life. There is none of that here. It's badly done sets and CGI, and there's just no life to it whatsoever.
It's so laughable. It's so laughable. And
let me ask you guys this, because this is the big sticking point that I'm going to make here. But divorce this one from the original movie. Does your opinion change of this in any way, shape, or form?
No,
Moderately,
I mean,
but not really.
no, I would still say it was bad. If Gladiator, the first one, did not exist, I would say, yeah, probably. I would say if Gladiator did not exist, I would have said I would have said this was a terrible movie, but it was just pointless and I would be forgotten. The fact that it's riding on the coattails of a Best Picture winner, and I still think Traffic was better. The
No
fact
way.
See,
that
because when I looked
Crouching
at this
Tiger-
film,
Crouching
I was looking
Tiger
at it
was
from a completely different perspective, because I got it right away. It's that it's not so much that the characters are the central focus of the story here, because like I said, you're trying to essentially carry the torch of what Russell Crowe and the filmmakers from 25 years ago already did, and you're just not going to do that here. So what they opted to do with this film is that they wanted to make the spectacle Rome itself. So this is essentially a story about Rome, basically somewhere. I guess if you're talking about historical timeline here, this would be like about maybe a century before Augustine. I think they said it was like 200 AD. So this would have been the time frame that this film
yeah,
was
it's
dropped
200
in here,
AD,
right?
and
Yeah.
they do mention that the crucifixion is reserved only for criminals and Christians.
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, this is still during the time where they're hanging Christians upside down and stuff like this. So the story that's being set up here through our main character, which is the son of what's his name? Augustus, is that his name? Or
Marcus
Maximus?
Aurelius.
Maximus.
Oh,
Yeah,
Maximus.
yeah. But what's being set up here is that this is all a story highlighting and showing the oppression of Rome, which is when it starts to expand in that category later on here in this film, because what you start to see here is that Denzel Washington's character, who is completely over the top and hams up this scene more than I've seen Denzel ham up any movie that he's been in the last 20 years, probably since Training Day. Like, this is the most over the top I've seen Denzel in quite some time, so you can tell that he was all in for this movie. But
Hey, that
you
got him an
see,
Oscar.
yeah. I don't know. Who knows with this year? This year looks like it's going to chuck ass. But the story, like his whole story is that what he was showing, what he was doing is that he came from obviously one of the African villages that was raided by Rome, but obviously he got taken in. But he wanted Rome to crumble. He wanted Rome to fall. He tried to do a power play with the Homo twins and all the people who had a bloodline connection to the authority of Rome, at least in the empire, and he wanted to essentially cut things down from the inside. So in a lot of ways, he's kind of representation of our modern intelligence agency, saying that, hey, if I can get this person to go against this person and get these two people out of the way, then there's nobody left here but me. So the entire highlight of this film is showing just the overall corruption, tyranny, and oppression from Rome from pretty much every single angle here, because all of these characters at the end of the day, they're all trying to grasp that power ring, which is basically control of the entire nation. And where we're seeing essentially all these characters come together and quite literally kill each other off one by one, because they all see each other as a threat to that power chair, which even includes our main character here. And this is all what it's fundamentally centered around. So I looked at it from the perspective of, okay, this is a story about Rome. This is the whole focus here is ancient Rome. Like, even when you look at the gladiator scenes here, right? And I felt this pretty strongly watching this. Like, this is basically just showing the bread and circuses, right? Like, if you look at any modern like sports game, football game, basketball game, it's the same content. You bring a bunch of people to an arena, you entertain them, quote unquote, with whatever going on the field. They'll never pay attention to what's actually going on within their country, within their world and whatnot. This is the same bread and circus that we play here to this very day here in modern times as well. And it's really just showing the origination, I should say, of an empire that you got to keep this in mind too. You're talking about comparing this one to, like, let's say the Greece Empire, or something like the Persian Empire, because obviously Persians played a key role in this film as well. This is kind of a history lesson. I'm not sure how you guys are kind of like big on history, if you're like a history buff, so like world history, stuff like that. I find it a lot more intriguing from that aspect. Now, of course, I'm not expecting the average moviegoer who just wants to be entertained for 2 hours to know anything about the ins and outs of how the Roman Empire actually operated, and that's requiring too much homework. This isn't the MCU. I get that, right? But like I said, for me, I was just looking at it from a much more different angle, which is probably why I think you guys were looking at it. One, obviously, like I said, it's supposed to be a sequel to a movie that was done much better 25 years ago, but also looking at it from, if you're just looking at it purely from a character perspective, yeah, all these characters are dirtbags. Like, there is no real good guy. The only person who can be considered good was the one who essentially his wife was not kidnapped, but killed very, very early on in the Roman battle with the Empire, and he kind of uses that as his vengeance point to take over Rome and get revenge on Rome for what they've done, what they did to him, what they did to her, and what they've done to so many other people. So that's kind of the perspective that I looked at it. Did you guys consider any of that, or you guys push back against any of that? I'll start with Rick.
Well, I'm not quite sold on your theory that this is about history of Rome and all that, or parallels. In fact, that because we saw that already in the first Gladiator, where we saw the history of Rome there with the empire and crazy emperors and the weak Senate. So I don't get why anyone would think that. That was well, no, it's nothing beats the Dune popcorn bucket. I so
Not even the Deadpool popcorn bucket.
not even the Deadpool one. As far as I know, they don't have a Wicked one, so we should be thankful. Yeah, no, I don't see anything to do with history. I mean, they mention little bits like yeah, they crucified Christians and criminals here, and this is at a time when I guess Christians were still an underground sect of Judaism. But there's nothing there. There's nothing about history. I don't expect it to be historically accurate. It's fine. For some reason, though,
Sharks. Did they
the
get the sharks in? How did they
the
do that?
what
The sharks in the the arena when they filled up with water. Is
well
that historically accurate?
yeah, I mean the Tiber River is filled with sharks. It's a shark infested body of water there, Rob. You should
Yeah.
know this. You're an
Of course,
Italian.
I was thinking to myself the whole time, it's like, how do they carry the sharks there? Like, I know technically Rome, there's water there. I get that, but I mean, still they have to
Yeah,
like capture the
the
sharks
The
and
Mediterranean is filled with sharks.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Don't forget
for
they
me,
also got the Wakanda rhinos too. Don't forget those as
Yeah.
well.
what bothered me, and I know this is a ridiculous thing to bother people about, is uh, in Maximus's tomb, where it says what we echo, what we do in life echoes in eternity. It's in English, and I just said you couldn't even be bothered to write it in Latin. I mean, you couldn't even do that. Why does it have to be in English? I mean, this is just so absurd. I don't know why that one detail just endlessly gnawed at me where I said, you couldn't even write it, his tomb description. They couldn't even write it in Latin. They couldn't even bother. Were they that lazy? It's like, oh, I'm
And,
sorry.
and look, I am a history guy. Actually, I love history. I think it's
Mhm.
fascinating. But I felt like if they were going for that angle, they did it in a really clumsy manner. And the thing is, this is not some other director. This is not somebody other than Ridley Scott who did the first one. It's Ridley Scott. He has no excuse showing the hierarchy of Rome, how power corrupts. I mean, all of that's very obvious in terms of the themes of the movie. I just thought it was frankly really poorly done. So it's, I because I find that stuff really interesting, but you also need to be able to connect to the characters, and I
Yeah.
just never did. I just wasn't able to do that. And because again, those themes are interesting to me, are parallels to our country, Rome. But I do think that something like Megalopolis, as flawed as it was, did a much better job at connecting, our civilization to
And that was another film that was trying to do this idea of once again to revive
Mhm.
Roman Empire, right?
Yeah. Well, and I want to say Ridley Scott said something really stupid, that Denzel Washington's character is totally like Trump. So I think it's funny that you said that, because I agree with you. I think he's much
Yep.
more about this kind of destructive influence in civilization that wants to undermine the democratic process and the people basically. And
Yeah.
look,
Well,
I thought it was heavy-handed how they kept being like Rome is evil, needs to like it was like Western civilization is evil and it needs to be torn down and
I
all this
Mhm.
shit. So
I will push
whatever,
back on
but
a little bit on
yeah.
that about Washington being Trump. I will say that he's right. Ridley Scott, if he made that comparison, is right in one way, because Denzel Washington, like Trump, could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not lose any votes, because he ends up shooting someone with his bow and arrow in the middle of the Colosseum, and nothing really happens to him. So there's that parallel right there. Both
Yeah.
of them could kill
And like
someone.
I said, the whole thing with what's his face Denzel's character here is that he has been plotting this downfall of the Roman system for quite some time, because essentially what he's done is that he's like, okay, well, I got these two brothers, these two knuckleheads who are like, oh, we need to inquire to the gods to figure out the fate of all the soldiers and blah blah blah. So it's like, okay, if I get these two to turn on each other, which would be very easy because they're stupid, then essentially I can position myself in the power by manipulating one of them to giving me a position to where, hey, if the other one dies, guess who's in charge of the whole show now? Me, right? And then
No,
the problem
technically
is,
the monkey would be. He's first consul.
well, I mean, come on, he's gonna kill that monkey. I don't think anyone. That monkey's dead. But of course, his plan gets thrown into a ride because you have, this guy coming here who could very well be the rightful, blood heir to the Roman throne, being though he's the son of Maximus in the first film. So now all of a sudden he's like, he has to figure out a way to not only get rid of the knucklehead twins, he has to get rid of the woman so that she can can't give birth to any more blood heirs, get rid of the son, obviously. So he's basically trying to fast forward his plan for a takeover, but it all comes crashing down on him so fast that even when it seems like he finally got what he needed, there's absolutely no shot, because here comes the Trojans, and there's a whole concept of like the Trojan War with the Romans, and everything just catches up to him too much. But then again, this is essentially the game that's being played here, the Game of Thrones, quote unquote, just in case you guys didn't catch that one throughout the course of the movie. It's like,
wait a
this
minute.
is Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jacob. What do you mean the woman who's going to give birth? You just said she was in her 60s. How is she going to give birth?
Hey, I mean, there's old women in the Bible who gave birth to people. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, but that was divinely, by an act of God.
But obviously the idea here is that if you kill the woman, then obviously there's nobody else that can claim to have the rightful heir to whatever the throne is at that point. That's the whole reason why they got rid.
That's a fascinating thing. That, I mean, after a while, just like in Gladiator, everyone knew that it was Maximus, and he was just kept alive by the popularity of by the mob. Here, everyone knows that this is Lucius. He is the sole living heir to a former emperor, and like, well, yeah, we're just gonna let him live. No one's gonna try to bump him off right away so that we won't have any claims to the throne. I don't know. It just struck me as idiotic. So it was like,
in what aspect?
In that, look, first off, why couldn't the mother just buy her son back from slavery, or the Gladiator, and just end it?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the whole it with her in the first film that they had a relationship unbeknownst to, what was the name of Joaquin Phoenix's character? I can't remember. Commodus, right? Well, wasn't that basically the entire, I wouldn't say arc, but kind of like the entire problem in that whole triangle, that she was being sold off to someone she didn't want to be with?
I don't remember. I mean, but now she was married.
I was say, has anyone watched this movie in the last 25 years?
Yes.
Well, it's been a while for me, because I actually, like I said, when after a while, this woman and all her little friends are still conspiring to overthrow the emperor. You would think after 25 years they would get it right once, but they're still doing it. They're still meeting behind closed doors.
Stab the guy in the neck, okay, guys? Come on.
Yeah,
it's just get it over with.
Or in the eardrum, because that works too.
Yeah.
Yeah, might as well. But for me, it was funny seeing Sir Derek Jacobi, who's Gracchus, and I saw that in the trailer and the credits. He's when they bring the Connie Nielsen character back at the conclusion, and you see him in the background just standing with his spear, and it looks like he has no idea what to do. For some reason, I started laughing in the theater, and then he gets killed off. The background. It's like, this is hilarious, because I thought you were dead in the last movie, so now you're dead again.
But there's so many little things from the original that just don't even register. I mean, the dialogue that was given to Russell Crowe, like the sort of jaw-dropping lines of dialogue of where he basically, he takes off his helmet and, Commodus sees who he is, but thinking he was dead this entire time, and basically like, yeah, I'm still alive, bitch. What's up? I'm still here. And, it's just his whole arc is fantastic. But here's the problem in this one.
And I think the reason why they couldn't, because let's be honest, if they even attempted to try to mimic like Russell Crowe in that first movie, they would get absolutely roasted for it. Like, you couldn't even do it in that aspect.
Well, they did have some grandiose dialogue. It was like,
it wasn't good.
Brother, let's not kill each other for their amusement. As he's trying to fight off one of the first guy that Paul Mescal is trying to defend himself against.
Pedro Pascal and Mescal.
Yeah.
I can't. You know what? Mescal, Pascal. It's all starting to blur together. And it's starting to get awful. The dialogue is really heavy-handed. What does he say at one point? I'd rather face the blade than accept Roman mercy. It's like, golly, nobody speaks that way. Not even the Romans spoke in such grandiose.
But that's what I mean.
tones.
It's almost like almost this recreation of an old, epic or something, where it's you're speaking in this profound and
Yes.
attitude laden way, and it's just like, okay, you're not on the stage. It's okay.
Yeah. No. Remember, I mean, at the end when Connie Nielsen says, "Go, my son," it's like I was saying, shouldn't you be dead? I
The
mean,
melodrama doesn't like the melodrama. It's like, okay, it's like people are looking around like, what are you doing? It's like there's not enough emotion to even stir here. So what are you doing?
well, there's enough emotion for him to stop war at the end. So it's like with
It's
one
all about
speech.
Marcus Aurelius's dream and bringing the dream of his Rome, and people are going to be free. And it's just like, shut the fuck up, guys. We're still, listen, fucking 2,000 years in the future. Guess what? We're still dealing with the same problems. Okay. You're not, you didn't do anything.
Yeah, and
Except
I
for
just
now, we call it the NFL, baby. CTE.
Yeah. Right.
all I kept thinking is the final grandiose speech by Lucius whatever. Is like, how do the people in the back hear him? I mean, they're not. I mean, they're not going to
Strength
be.
and honor, fucking bullshit.
It's like,
There's this, by the
oh,
way, there's this scene in The Sopranos because Ralphie, who's played by Joe Pantoliano, is just obsessed with Gladiator because it just came out, and he's like high on coke, and he's like he's just yelling strength and honor, and he eventually hits like the whatever he hits the bouncer in the eye with like a I forget what it was. He just assaults this guy, and it's like, yep, that's whatever. It's this ridiculous like pop culture reference, but but that's the point though. Gladiator was a great movie that people loved. It won Best Picture, and for this to kind of be the follow up, it's just like that's where movies are in 2024. You have renowned name directors, okay, I guess an okay cast, just completely mailing it in. And I don't blame the actors because I think there's the script.
I will push
I
back
blame
on
the
two
actors.
instances here in
I
the film
blame the
because
actors.
there's two actors who didn't mail this thing in. One was Pedro Pascal, because if you've seen Pedro Pascal in all the other movies that he's terrible in, he was actually somewhat subdued in this film, which, you know, knowing his crippling anxiety, you saw him on the what was it, the Comic-Con with the Fantastic Four, where he really has to have Vanessa Kirby hold his hand because he has such crippling anxiety. Like he's that type of person. It's like, I don't know, maybe I'll lay off the Xanax and all the other antipsychotics and antidepressants. Maybe that would help just a little bit. And then obviously Denzel Washington absolutely did not phone this movie in. He was so completely above everyone else, and that's probably what I think kind of separated the movie even more, is that he's going so all in and so over the top, and there's nobody else in this film that matches his energy at all. Like, you think at some point you're gonna be like, well, if he's gonna be a cartoon character, then maybe I should be a little bit more animated myself. But everyone else tried to play it like straight and serious, which didn't exactly mix as well as they thought that it would.
Well, I don't know about straight and serious because Paul Mescal was dead. I mean, he had no emotion. He had no charisma. He had no interest. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't follow this guy anywhere. Why am I supposed to believe that he's going to lead this great revolution? He's boring. He
has no character traits. There's nothing about him that stands out or that separates him from just a bland general heroic character in arc, because it's sort of like, okay, he can kill people. Okay, but like he doesn't make, like, he's not funny. He's not, he doesn't really talk about his wife other than to talk about the fact that he lost her, or
he can quote Virgil, so there's a plus.
Yeah, it's just like there's really not a whole lot there to hold on to, and you need to do that in sort of like this revenge heroic arc, and it just
you need
never
a compelling character, and he was not it. He was so bland. He was so boring. He had
Oliver Reed from the first movie. Now maybe I just love him a lot, but the whole like Maximus laughing at him saying, you met Marcus Aurelius. It's like, no, I said he touched me once. It's really funny. And he died. Oliver Reed died during filming, famously getting drunk, and he lived a good life. But it's just little things like that. There's not even like good little supporting actor performances that kind of help it get to the finish line.
The thing is, you actually care about Maximus in the first one because
Yeah.
it takes the first part, and you know that he cares about his wife and that he really wants to go home to his wife and his
Just wants to
son and
die. Okay?
retire.
Let him die.
Yes, he wants to he wants to retire and just not even carry the burden of emperorship that Marcus Aurelius wants him to, and he's thrown into this situation with Lucius. He's like, oh yeah, first 5 minutes, yeah, there's this broad there. She gets killed. I'm sad, and I see this general, and now I'm going to take revenge. And yeah, it's like, who cares? Honestly, I never knew her name. There's no build up there because you kind of
All
expect to
you need to
know.
know is that she's dead, Rick. All you need to know is that she's dead and she's never coming back.
That's a plot
No,
device here.
she
Clearly.
kind of is. She kind of is. She's waiting for him because she's going to go off on across the river Styx, being carried off, and yeah, they'll be waiting there in that vaguely mystical netherworld. Oh golly, I mean he's a boring. I can't. I'm sure I've seen Paul Mescal in another film. Oh yes, I saw him when he played a ghost in All of Us Strangers, where I mean literally the whole point was that we find out that he's dead and he's a ghost, and that the lead character was having sex with a ghost. So he's boring. Stop laughing, Roberto. This is
It's ridiculous.
that movie got Criterion. So how dare you?
Okay. But so did I think a Ghost Story, which is terrible.
Yeah. So there's nothing here that would make me care about this character. There's nothing here that makes me care about anyone. But I'll give credit to Denzel. He's having the time of his life. Just going all in on the cray cray, as they say, and good for him. He needs to do something to realize, I guess, his dreams to be some sort of crazed Roman emperor. And who knows? Maybe he'll win the Oscar after all for all this. I don't know why.
Who was it that? Oh, okay, no, that was Josh Brolin. Okay, I thought Denzel had said something crazy like if Ridley Scott doesn't get nominated for like an Academy Award, that he was going to quit acting. But no, that was Josh Brolin.
No, that
was talking about
Denis
Dune.
Villeneuve. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
that
was
was
Dune.
No, Josh Brolin would retire if Denis Villeneuve didn't win.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I
get
like Josh
nominated.
Brolin, but shit like that is why people hate actors. It's like we don't care. I mean, do what you want with your life. You've been going since the Goonies, and you're the son of James Brolin. And come on, I just watched No Country for Old Men. You're great in it, dude. But just can we just stop? We don't care. You want to retire? Great, go ahead.
Yeah, don't make me a part of it. I will say that speaking of movies that are better than Dune 2, this film here, Gladiator 2, I would.
No, it's not. No,
Yes, it is.
no.
Yes, it
No,
is.
it's not. No, it's not. It
Yes,
is
it
not.
is.
No. Dune 2 at least was took time in its world and gave us a conflict between.
Yeah, and it also had like
hypothetical-
4.5 hours with the first movie to do that whole thing too. So yeah, no, I don't give you.
No, this is no. You're just wrong. That's a terrible take, Jacob. You're just
Yeah,
being vicious
okay.
on Dune 2.
Oh, okay, yeah. You keep drinking your blue Kool-Aid from Dune 2, then I'll go ahead and stick with this movie here. But yeah, Gladiator 2, I'll be the person. I'll be the bad guy here with you two heretics here. I still think this is a good film. I still think there's a lot of spectacle here with this movie. And I use that term correctly in spectacle.
No, I was laughing at this is a good film part. Yeah, no, this is a terrible film. This is an absolutely terrible film.
This is an absolutely spectacle of a film that is carried by.
It makes a spectacle of itself.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
I'll
but
give
that's
it
not a
credit
good
for one. I'll give it the credit for being a spectacle. I think a lot of things work for this film that I like. Look, the whole setup, like I said, this is just from my perspective. I look at it more from the setting here. If you're going to be one of those people who are kind of going into this thinking that, oh, okay, well, it's Gladiator, it's going to be all about, the Roman Empire. I'm going to be all into like the setting and whatnot. I would say that there's aspects of kind of like the filming of this one that work in certain aspects. I think it goes a little bit too ridiculous at some point. Like I said, at one point you were at, okay, we got a bunch of guys here. How are we going to torture them for our entertainment? Okay, make them play essentially. What's the Spanish bull thing? Rick, you know this. But the bullfighting. We're basically going to do bullfighting, except for what we're doing with rhinos instead of that, right? And then in the very next scene, all of a sudden, we're doing like a water battle in a pool full of sharks. That I don't know how they got him on there, but they're there. They're a thing. Then you had the whole battle with Pedro Pascal and his whole thing. So essentially, you're like I said, the whole bit of this film is that you're watching a power play happen in real time through a variant of characters that all culminate towards like an ending point where, hey, look, we all kind of know essentially what happens with the Roman Empire. I don't think we need to set up like a feature franchise with this. I will also say this as well. If this one wasn't attached to a far better movie that came out 25 years ago, I don't think that the reaction to it would be as harsh. At the same time, I can also see it not being as marketable if that was the case too. But then again, like I said, if you have named guys like Denzel Washington and Pedro Pascal on there, and Ridley Scott wasn't attached to it, I don't think that you would find it too hard to sell it just based on that aspect of it as well. So I still give this one a 3.5 out of 5. I think that's probably going to be my my rating of this film. No, I definitely like this one far better than some of the other ones we've done. This is basically one of those like late year like popcorn movies, kind of on the same line of like Sonic the Hedgehog, which is coming out here pretty soon. And yes, we will talk about Moana 2 when that comes out next week. That's our next film. That all lies into the same thing. But no, this is basically Hollywood dumping out what they consider to be their big films here before we wrap things up in the award season 24. Is this going to get award consideration? I would say no, but then again, all the movies that I'm hearing is getting award consideration. I also would not give them to them, so I'm not going to sit here and die on this hill saying that this needs to get any kind of Oscar buzz or any kind of Academy Award buzz. Maybe if you're going solely based on like something like costume design or something like that, or set design, fine, give him that one, but not anything more than that here. So yeah, I'm gonna. I thought Maurice said autocorrect, but no, I'm giving this one 3.5 here. What about you two? I'll start with Rob.
Yeah, I can't go above 1.5. I don't even know, because like, look, I remember when this was announced. Okay, relatively not that long ago. I mean, I don't even think it was announced 2 years ago that they got greenlit and was getting made. I was surprised how quickly the production went, and it was going to get released this year. When they announced it, I thought it was going to be a disaster. I thought it was like, okay, you're going to make a sequel to Gladiator 25 years after the fact. There's no Russell Crowe. I remember Russell Crowe saying he was pissed off because he wasn't asked about it. Obviously, his character's dead. It's not like
Well, it did, and let's be honest. Even if he wanted to bring him back, he's let himself go over the last few years. Like, there's just no way you're gonna make that one work.
But he was.
In fairness, he's almost always pissed off.
Yeah, true, and that's, I think, what makes him a good actor too. But yeah, no. So I came into this kind of with very low expectations. Somehow I thought it was still going to be like entertaining and engaging and do good fight scenes and fight choreography. Even on that spectacle driven level, I just found it incredibly underwhelming. And there's so many scenes that are dark, drab looking, like they didn't try to give a consistent tonal look and feel to the movie. And again, the people involved should know better. It really feels like Ridley Scott's just mailing it in with this and Napoleon. The Last Duel, whatever you want to say about it, I thought that movie had a genuine spectacle to it in terms of the battle scenes, the fight scenes, the period, the armor, all that stuff. I thought was just so much better than like
one thing
Gladiator 2.
Well, one thing real quick, when the opening, not the opening scene, but the first scene where he goes into like the Colosseum and he's walking out and he kind of sees like the whole crowd and everything. Did anyone get the very clear, what's the best way to describe this? The ode to the Dark Knight Rises when they're doing the scene, like of when Bane is on the football field right before he blows up half the field. Did anyone find that parallel at all with that one, or I'm the only one who noticed that?
No, I was too busy wondering, am I watching a remake in name only? Am I watching the same? I'm watching the same.
I mean,
movie.
the main character from the first movie is clearly dead. So, I mean, technically, by that definition, yeah.
No,
I mean, I think the shot was probably similar in that it was wide. It was that sort of wide, all-encompassing, atmospheric shot where you're trying to get you're trying to introduce the location. But yeah, it's and it's look. At the end of the day, these people are trying to make a movie that people will be entertained by. maybe it makes its money back. I mean, I don't know how successful it's going to be this weekend and the forecast going forward, but this is the exact kind of thing that people want to go see and have fun at. And I just thought it really fell short of kind of any engaging spectacle. The characters were just not engaging at all for me, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. But yeah, I probably land somewhere like 1.5 out of 5.
All right, Rick.
All right. Well, you're nuts if you think that
Rick,
this is a bit
before
high.
I get to your rating, let me just ask you this because I have a theory. So,
Okay.
how much of your negative review of this film is based solely on Paul Mescal?
Well, it's a good chunk of it. It's because he's very boring in this movie, and there's no way that, again, I can't believe that this guy would be able to lead troops because he doesn't have he doesn't have any interest, or there's nothing interesting about him. Rather, he's very boring. He's very bland, kind of just doesn't even shout. He doesn't have a personality. He's personality free. He's personality free. He's just awful character. I don't know how good or bad he is as an actor. So maybe it was the script. Maybe he did the best he could with what he was given. But there's nothing here that would make me uh, be interested in watching this guy. I was hoping that he would get killed off right away so we could end this movie faster. I will give this movie a 1 out of 5, and I think I'm being generous. I think that this is a boring movie. I think it's, and here's I'm going to throw this at you, Jacob. I think this movie is more gay than Wicked. Yeah, this movie is more gay than Wicked. Yes,
No.
yes, it has scantily clad men.
The only thing that could be gayer than Wicked is literal homosexual sex. Like that's literally the only thing that'd be gayer than that film.
No,
hints
least
that there were more gay people in that movie than there was in this movie. So
well,
check
no,
and mate.
no, because remember, Denzel's character does say, that he wasn't some days that he wasn't always interested in girls. So there, checkmate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
but
there
I'm
you
pretty sure
go.
Wicked,
There you
even though
go.
I haven't seen the movie, I'm pretty sure Wicked has a bunch of non-binary weirdo people doing show tunes. So even that makes it objectively more
I don't know
gay.
if they're non-binary. I think they're just straight up gay. But point being, this is a very boring movie using the name and the corpse of Gladiator to masquerade as entertainment. I actually wrote, I don't know what film they think they're in, but it's not the one I'm watching. I think that they think that I'm watching some sort of grand epic spectacle, thrilling and exciting about the political machinations inside the decaying and decrepit Roman Empire. No, I'm watching people make fools out of themselves. I'm watching people cashing checks. I'm watching Sir Derek Jacobi looking terribly confused and wondering what the hell am I doing in this movie? Why am I here other than cashing my check? There's nothing. This movie is boring. There's the 15-minute we get to the battle. Sure, it was, I guess, well filmed, but I just said it was aloof. It's just so remote, so distant from me. There's nothing here that is compelling. There's nothing here that is interesting. I'm giving it a 1 out of 5, and it might crawl its way into my worst of the year. I know Rob had talked
Is that
about
a 10 or a 5? Because I know our good buddy Christian Toto is having a tough time coming up with a 5 best. So are we doing 10 best or 5 best?
Well, no, it might be in my 10 worst. I might even follow. I might watch Argyle first. I might actually watch Argyle. I know Rob has talked about doing the 20 worst films of the year. I keep finding
I can
worse
do
and worse
20.
films.
Like trust me, I can do 20
find,
films.
it's terrible that I keep finding worse and worse films. I'm struggling to find 10. And my number one best film of the year technically came out in like 2020, but it gets mentioned this year because it was released in 2024 here in the United States. This is a boring movie. I was like, and I'll put it this way: the audience was terribly muted at the end of the movie, where it just seemed to end in the same way that the last Gladiator ended. There was no applause. There was no excitement. You could sense that the audience just got up and left. There was no reactions to it. It's a 1 out of 5. This is just an awful film.
I will
And
say
Wicked was
this. I
better.
mean, honestly, I don't know about you guys because, like I said, maybe you guys got certain screeners that I don't have access to. But the days of like audiences clapping or having any kind of emotion, like when a film ends, like that rarely only happens in movie theaters anymore. And even then, the only time I can even think of it had to be like some kind of like MCU movie. I mean, usually when the credits start to roll, people just get up and leave. Like I thought that was kind of the customary. I don't know, maybe. Real quick, yeah, you did ask me this question earlier. The budget on this movie is insane. Like this movie's gonna lose a shit ton unless somehow they can get an amazing word of mouth. Which, if you look at the critic and the audience reaction, it's been generally favorable so far, but I don't think it's gonna be enough to get them over the top of where they need. They're estimating that this film may have cost like $310 million, which means that this has to make a ridiculous amount of money worldwide to even sniff a profit. Maybe this is one of those films that plays up better in like international markets than it will here in the United States. So maybe it makes like 70% of its money overseas and that leads to the finish line. I can't see it happening here.
They didn't spend that money on the special effects, did they? Because those
Where's the money?
baboons.
Where's the money?
Yeah. Those
It's not on the
baboons.
screen.
It was on the sharks, damn it.
Oof.
Well, not on the baboons. I can tell you that. I was just absolutely horrified.
It's like, hey, we got sharks and rhinos, baboons. We can PS paint that.
Yeah, no, that was. I actually wrote something about the baboons. Like I just thought. I wrote ghastly when they're battling the CGI baboons because I'm going, yeah, are you even trying? So they didn't spend that money on the special effects.
Yeah, that was probably the worst out of all film reactions so far this year. Joker 2, like when the credits rolled on that film, everyone that justifiably had a bad taste in their mouth. So yeah, that's probably the worst one of the entire year. Yeah, but that's what we have here for this week's episode. So obviously you can see this is probably the most split that we've been on a movie in quite some time, which is actually pretty interesting. I like being split on movies. I don't like agreeing with you guys. So whenever I have a chance to not do that, I'll always take it. But next week we do have another interesting film that we'll talk about. We have Moana 2. So we'll have Moana 2 and a whole bunch of things regarding The Rock because we can catch up on a couple of stories about him. I know he's filming the live action version of Moana, which comes out next year. So apparently Disney thinks that Moana is like this multi-billion-dollar property. If they do a part 2 and then a live action sequel to a movie that just came out 8 years prior. And on top of that, but Rock has a lot of issues going on behind the scenes right now. Red One is not doing terribly well at the box office as a result. And there's a few other things going on that he's not doing too well of. Even wrestling, we'll talk about that as well. But that's your assignment for next week. So I think we can all stomach a little bit of Moana too. I don't think that one's going to be nearly as bad as a watch as Wicked was for a lot of people. But until then, I'll go ahead and say Godspeed, everyone. Oh yeah, Vanya is joining us here on our Twitch side of things as well. I'll go ahead and give the floor to you guys, let people know where they can find you. Rick, what are you working on right now?
Yeah, well, I'm finally.
That's great, Rob. What are you working on? You fell for it twice. You fell for it twice.
Stop it, Jacob. All right, just stop it. I don't know why you think that's particularly funny with me. That's the last time you're going to do that.
Go ahead.
You're not going to do it again? Are you? Because I've had it with that. That's enough. Grow up. All right. Just finishing the Wizard of Oz retrospective and reviews. That's it. Don't do that again, Jacob. I've had it.
Does that one count?
Yeah, I'm a child, so of course I find everything funny. But anyway, I'm working on my Civil War review. I think I might do even a live stream on it, just because I have a lot of thoughts, and I'd really like to go over just how divided the audience has been, depending on what your political leanings are and how you see that movie. So I just think that's a really interesting Rorschach test for 2024. But I've got that. I've got challengers. I've got almost all my 2024 reviews to do here as we get to the end of the year. And I have a bunch of 2024 movies to watch, including Emilia Perez, that weird transgender drug cartel movie that I'm sure is a piece of shit. And, there was it Saoirse Ronan Apple TV just came out. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff I really need to catch up on. I like Nora, but so yeah, just as always, check me on my Twitter. Noirvember's coming to an end here. So yep, just keeping busy watching movies, starting a new job soon. So
again,
yep, it's good. It's a good one.
I mean,
Congrats, Rob.
I'm in school right now. It's fine.
what was I gonna say? Yeah, so I got at least 7 films right now that I need to catch up on, and I've reshuffled my best and worst movies of the entire year. So I already got those placeholders coming. Like I said, we'll have those ready by the end of this year as well. So best and worst movies, we got, I think, 3 more movies left to review here. Moana 2, I know 1 Sonic, and then I blank on the third one, but I'll figure it out before the show is over. So we'll have those coming up here. So yeah, we're wrapping up this one here pretty soon.
Craven's the last one.
Yeah, piece of shit. Yeah, so Craven, that's the other one, the great Sony one. So let's see if Sony has a trifecta of bad superhero movies in the course of 1 calendar year. So we'll go ahead and do that. Yeah, outside of that, so Sunday we got the Bible ends. We've been talking about James 2 and reading James 1 and James 2 in its full context, because apparently nobody else bothers to do so. Tuesday we have the bar room. We'll be doing more stuff on here. I may or may not cut off Rick again for a 4th time on next week's show, so that will be something to look forward to. There's a teaser for you guys on next week's show, and then yeah, we'll be back here next Friday, and then in 2 weeks I got Nerdigans coming back here, and we're going to be continuing our retro wave on the Pokemon manga. I believe we're supposed to be doing Ruby and Sapphire next, so we still have that coming around the horn as well. So, and then by the way, I'm also working on a new show for Bounding Galley Comics called the 511, which will be debuting in January of 2024. So still working that one out as well, but it should be a pretty exciting one. I think it's going to do a lot better over with that audience as well. So until then, thank you everyone. Did I say 2024? Yeah, I meant 2025.
It's okay.
Who know these years just blurring together now. Like, hey, we're almost at the point where the year 2000 was 25 years ago proper. So yeah, we're all getting old and we're all slowly dying.
Sunset, sunrise, sunset.
Done.
Yes.
So everyone who joined us here tonight: DK, Rob, Maurice, Johnson, what's his name, Shakara, Elliot Spaceman for joining us is here as well. Who else we got here? Doba Fett, Vanya, who joined us here on this show, Rooftop Korean. Everyone who listened to this Drek, thank you very much for joining us. We will see you again next week here on the show. Adios, good night, and goodbye. Smooth.